Good day, city people. Surprise, surprise. This is Saba from the City McWiggles project again. How is May treating you all? I guess you're used to my voice by now, after the 4 weeks of silly talks in this season 2 of the podcast. I hope you've had the chance to listen to the last 2 episodes as well, where I'm speaking to the R&B singer-songwriter based in Darwin, Katie Baker. I've heard her song Hypnotize from the newly released album Under Our Galaxy on repeat since last week. Check it out, it's pretty different from everything that she'd been doing before. This week, I'm coming to you with something a little different again. When I speak to artists for the podcast, many times we venture into some music industry related topics that don't necessarily fit into the focus of each conversation. Besides, musicians in general, and Australian ones in particular, are super nice and open-minded people, very generous with their time. So sometimes we end up speaking for much longer than that 1 hour I usually schedule the chats for. Nevertheless, I realize that our human attention span these days is pretty limited. And I'm speaking from experience. I listen to a heap of podcasts, webinars, talks, etc. myself. There is just so much stuff out there, it's very hard to even find half an hour a day to properly focus on something. So when I edit the episodes, I leave a lot of stuff out, not to bore you, the audience, to death, so to speak. But some of those offside topics and opinions that the guests share with me are too good not to share them with you. So this time around, I've decided to release an extra episode with a few of those insights from the 4 acts I've spoken to this season. I called the episode The Afterparty because it consists of off-the-record bits, sometimes even bloopers, so all the unofficial things that normally happen outside of the main event, so to speak. I hope you'll enjoy it. So you'll hear some thoughts again from the cellist Anita Quayle, the gents from the art rock outfit Peak Park, Adrian from the rock band Fight the Sun, and the R&B powerhouse Katie Baker. They'll be speaking about some things that maybe they'd like to change in the business or they've learned along the way. Some of those insights might sound pretty obvious to you, but I always value the input from the people that actually participate in and form part of the music industry in Australia. Also, I reckon it's much more interesting for you to hear it directly from them instead of me expressing my opinion from an observer's point of view. So let's start with lessons learned. In episodes 3 and 4 of this season, I spoke to a Melbourne-based art rock outfit, Peak Park, about their new EP, How to Be. When the gents first approached me with their release, the date was supposed to be slightly different from what it actually dropped, which was March 18th this year. Even the biggest acts move the dates around, sometimes even at the last moment, so it's not super strange. But because Peak Park are an independent DIY band, it was interesting to get their perspective on that. And here's what they've told me. I can understand that there have been some bumps on the road maybe, so if you can speak from a perspective of a DIY band, what were those bumps and, why have you been moving the date so much? So maybe people can learn from this experience. And it's not, I don't want to put you in a bad perspective, but I think it's just interesting to know for people who do it at home, to know how many struggles you kind of have to face sometimes when you produce it yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's been a really huge learning curve for this release. I think we set ourselves like a pretty decent scope trying to record and mix and do everything ourselves anyway, let alone like 3 songs. And I think because we actually, this gig that we have lined up for the week after was originally going to be for Closer I Feel, the previous single. And because of lockdown, it just progressively getting pushed back. So when we locked in that date, we sort of worked backwards to say we know we've got 8-9 weeks at the start of the year to rehearse because we're starting a whole new set. We know that it takes roughly a few weeks for me to finish a mix, which in and of itself ended up pushing out just out of just learning and I mean that's just how long it took. And then the hardest thing has probably been trying to stick to deadlines, and which is good because we're setting ourselves deadlines, and like I'm a pretty like I'm an engineer, so everything is like I operate in this sense of like deadlines and like, you know, structure, and that's how you get results, which has been good. It's just hard when you're the one keeping yourself accountable and there's only so many hours in a week you can spend on it. So that's probably been the hardest thing, but I'm proud of us for doing it though. Like I think we, for a long time there, even with Please Don't as well, that was a song that could have been finished many versions ago. Closer I Feel is the same, but we just kind of kept changing it and pushing it back and like getting caught in the weeds this year or the back end of last year. And when we sort of moved in together too, I think I had a bit of a new lease of just, it's better off being done at 90% and out into the world rather than trying to perfect something that's never going to really hit that level that you think you could. But on top of that too, like I think just with time, I got better at mixing and we got better at recording and you just get better at all of it. And now all the press stuff, like we've done it a few times, so we know what's to come. And now it's a case of how can we do it better and how can we, just better ourselves with each release. But I would say don't do it. Just get someone else to do
it. Yeah, that's a big way. Don't do it. That's not what I was expecting of you, Thomas, to say. Okay, I'll take it.
I think it's sort of a battle between like trying to be realistic, but also being like optimistic. Like maybe like deadlines are tricky if you're sort of being optimistic because you're like, I feel like we can, and then like, you know, life just kind of sometimes can get in the way. So it's just trying to find that balance of being realistic about it, but also trying to like, you know, stick to your guns about things as well.
So that's pretty much why I moved back, just because we were ambitious, and then things happened. Like I got COVID, and then we had time apart, and just life and all sorts. So
and I guess another element to it is like if you self-impose the deadlines, you know, that's even harder to stick to than if you've got them like externally, because then you feel like bad because you're like, I imposed the deadline on myself and I can't really meet it. That sucks. So I totally relate. I'm the same. Despite those difficulties that Peak Park mentioned, their new release is a beautiful, well-produced collection of 3 songs. Each one might have a different vibe, but altogether, they perfectly fit the thought the band entertains on the EP as a whole, captured in its title, How to Be. Check it out when you can. You'll find the link to it in the episode notes. As you can tell from the short excerpt you've just heard, my chat with Peak Park was full of laughs and good energy. Nothing will ever beat having a conversation in real life, that's for sure. But connecting on Zoom means that many times artists join the chat from their homes. And the atmosphere then turns out to be much more relaxed than it would be if we had a formal conversation set up by their management, for instance, or if we met in a rush in their hotel lobby whilst they were on tour. It also shows their human side, and that's what I'm after in those conversations. Some funny interruptions happen sometimes as well, and they have nothing to do with tech glitches. Here's one of those moments when, during my chat with the R&B singer Katie Baker, a very unusual collaborator made an appearance.
So my cat's just about to introduce herself. She's very
that's
noisy.
Great. Yes, I love animals on Zoom. Yeah.
Hey, you want? She'll jump up in a sec. Come on.
Hello, Kitty.
This is Ayla.
Hey, Ayla. Does she sing as well, or does she help you?
She does actually. She sits on my lap when I record.
Okay.
So I've got lots of tracks of her purring and meowing. She's actually on one of my songs from Mary of the North called Green Eyes. She's at the very end of that song giving her opinion. But she spends a lot of time with me whilst recording. She's a little bit of my shadow, aren't you?
That's great. And the biggest fan probably, and the harshest critic as well, you know, although she
I would say so, yeah. She loves her music. She's gorgeous, sorry.
No, she is. I mean, I love cats as well. I don't have any animals because or pets because I travel a lot, and, you know, I change my kind of residence way too often to be able to kind of commit to having an animal. It's, you know, I don't want to be selfish. So if I have to leave it after a year of, you know, striking a relationship with it, and I think it's cruel for the animal itself. So yeah, maybe one day when I settle down finally, hopefully.
Yeah.
Katie Baker's cat is a bit of a celebrity, actually. If you follow Katie on her Instagram, which I'll link you to in the episode notes, you'll see Ayla much more often. And I've just checked. Indeed, Katie's song Green Eyes from her previous album, Mary of the North, does include a cat's opinion at the very end. Speaking of social media and pets, I spoke about it as well in episodes 5 and 6 of this season with a guest you wouldn't rather associate with this sort of topic. So I've left that bit out from the conversation then. But I reckon it perfectly fits here. Adrian is the singer of Fight the Sun, a Melbourne-based hard rock band. And I'm pretty sure we've figured out together the key to boosting engagement on our respective social media. Here's how. I sometimes think I've got like great content and I'll post it and I get like 5 likes. And then I put up a picture of me sitting at the desk typing something on the blog and the cat comes next to me and I take a photo of it. I put the cat pic up and I've got like 1,000 likes. I mean, of course it's exaggerated, but you know what I mean? So
I think that's the key. I think cute animals, cute pets is the thing. I think if we start incorporating our pets into everything, everyone wants to see a cute puppy or a cute cat. I think so. I think that's what I'll do. I might incorporate the riff of the day with pictures of my dog. Maybe I'll have my dog on my lap. But I'll put my puppy on my lap and my guitar, and I think we've cracked the code. I think we've cracked the code of social media.
Okay, so we're obviously making fun of a great marketing space, which is social media. But Adrian's riff of the day on TikTok is no joke at all. He's been doing a really good job with it, attracting heaps of viewers. And guess what? I've just checked, and since we talked, there are new videos on the platform where Adrian does try to impress his dog with the guitar riffs. So you should definitely check it out. And yes, there will be a link to it in the episode notes. Since we're on the topic of TikTok, it's a phenomenon that I'm still trying to fully comprehend. Maybe it doesn't come naturally to me because I'm of a different generation. But Peak Park, for instance, have been incorporating it in their promo strategy fairly successfully. So let's hear from the cool kids again what their thoughts are. Because TikTok is, it's like a big platform now for it wasn't meant for that, but it just turns out that it can elevate someone's musical career as well, like in the case of Benny and, many other musicians as well. So I just wanted to ask how it's going for you. Have you noticed like a spike in, followers and stuff like that? Or like, what's that like for you as a band using TikTok?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. It was kind of like, it's another platform that we were kind of like, we didn't really have anything to lose on it. And we all like use it like a bit. And, it was kind of like a thing of like, why fight it? Like it's where a lot of people are getting a lot of their media, and like entertainment, and it's sort of, I think maybe there's like, initially there was this kind of approach to be like, make like really high quality content and like spend a lot of time on it. This sounds like I'm slagging off what we've made, but I think it's kind of like, I think TikTok works well when it's like, showing sort of the human side of people, and you just see behind the curtain a little bit. And I think once we sort of came to that, we were kind of like, we'll just chuck up like just anything, anything that we feel like fits like the vibe. It's fun. It's like it's a fun app, but it's also it's tricky. I don't think like we haven't really had like a huge just like amount of people just jumping on there and like following us and stuff. It's definitely been more of like a slow burn. But
it's a grind like anything.
But it's I think it's another one of those ones where it's just like consistency is key.
Yeah, true. I like it from the perspective of compared to other social medias. Like I feel like Instagram and that can come off a bit too polished sometimes and a bit too thought out. And like ironically, again, this is a bit of a realization I had the other day that a lot of the music we make is about like expressing yourself and emotion and identity and stuff. And in part of the messaging and these ideas that I had about how we should push promotion and it being this real polished, like dehumanized almost package. I think I like the idea of TikTok and of it really just being a real strip back, like person to person. Like we don't need all these filters and all this sort of stuff. So it's just, I guess, another way to explore the music and express us. So,
That being said, I don't think we fully understand it.
No.
That goes through all of them. like you have a crack.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
yeah, definitely haven't got it figured out by any means.
No.
The gents from Peak Park are quite humble when it comes to not having the platform figured out. I'd respectfully disagree. You can judge it yourself at the link to their TikTok profile I'll leave for you in the episode notes. And on that note as well, because there are so many new tech possibilities out there, musicians are always on the lookout for more ways to connect with their already existing fan base, striving to expand it at the same time. Plus, audiences themselves want more from their favorite artists these days. They want to get to know them better as human beings, so exactly what Peak Park mentioned in the excerpt you've just heard. It's not enough to just put out music these days and count on it doing its thing. Artists need to put so much more effort into promoting their releases and, let's tell it as it is, being able to make a living from it as well. Coincidentally, this is something that came up in my conversation with Katie Baker. So let's hear what she had to say about this side of an artist's creative life.
As you know, social media is a lot, and I'm here for it. I love it, but it's a little sorry, it's just the cat just doing her thing. It gets come on, tail out the way, thanks. It just kind of gets to a point where we don't make much money as artists, regardless, and when we're not touring, we can't make even more money. And then there's kind of, I guess, just this assumption that we need to do social media for free as well. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I want to be able to, I guess, feel authentic in the way that I share my experience. And if there's some monetary compensation, I feel like I'm going to be able to give more and have a better fan experience. So I know Instagram are currently trialing subscriptions at the moment. It's not available for everyone just yet, but I would really like to be able to offer something that is a little bit more tangible. And I love to make content. I'm a graphic designer by trade. I also edit all of my own videos as well. I love editing. Oh, you don't need to see that. Come on, out the way. There you are. So I want to be able to, just be able to have time to be able to get everything together. And like I said, I've got all of these incredible creatives that I work with that I want to be able to employ to collaborate with me and create things that have never really been possible beforehand. But unfortunately, I just don't have empty pockets. What's the word? Bottomless pockets. Oh, come on, dickhead. I don't have bottomless pockets with endless finances.
And I think I've seen a few artists do it very successfully, with all the ideas that they had, and they branched out as well in the sense that they went beyond the music even and beyond, being artists. And I don't know if you follow Slowly, the kind of rock band from Melbourne. They did
No, but someone did recommend Slowly to me.
Yeah, so they did like coffee, like their own brand of coffee, and I know some artists do like even wines and beers and stuff, and so it's maybe not related to music strictly, but it's But I think COVID surprisingly has pushed us to do things that we never thought were coming, and we never thought they were coming so quickly. Since our conversation, Katie Baker has launched her Patreon page. Visit it at the link in the episode notes to see how you can support her art that way. But the Darwin-based singer is not the only musician that has shared thoughts on generating an income with me. Anita Quayle, a cellist based in Melbourne, whom I spoke to in episodes 1 and 2 of this season, also agrees that it's harder these days to maintain yourself from your art. Inevitably, it has something to do with the major streaming platforms and the ongoing conversation about how they remunerate artists. There are, however, alternative platforms to present and sell your music on, and Anita has spoken highly of one of them. And also something interesting that you said about Bandcamp, like putting all the music on Bandcamp. And I think I heard you, I picked it up somewhere that you said, I had this impression at least, that you kind of consider Bandcamp to be a bit more, how do I put, like an ethical, maybe, you know, kind of medium or a platform for musicians to put the music out. And I'm just wondering why that is. Like, because, you know, everybody's into like the streaming platforms, but we all know they don't pay what, at least in
That's
my
right.
opinion,
You can't make money from streaming. So I feel like Bandcamp is a platform that's it's best for independent artists who kind of don't want to be splitting their money with, you know, a record company and, you know, getting 5 cents per album or whatever, you know, whatever the crazy stupid, you know, amount is that they get paid, because, you know, they would get an advance to do the album, but then if you're with a record company, they make sure they recoup all of it before you get a cent. So I feel like Bandcamp it's a great platform for any independent musician to be able to upload their music, and it's like creating like a shop platform for your music and merchandise. And Bandcamp are the ones that take the most minimal amount of revenue. So it means that the vast portion of any sale goes directly to the artist. So that's why we encourage more people, if you like the album and you've streamed it that often, maybe you should buy it, you know, and buy it for, you know, for like $10 for an album or something, like, and it keeps the costs down for everyone involved as well, for the consumer as well as the artist who is wanting to make a living from selling their stuff. So there are fears that because they were sold to Epic Games, I think, Bandcamp recently, they will become more commercial. So fingers crossed they'll stay. Fingers crossed they stay true to the, you know, just to the music side, you know, if would be great. But, you know, there's always other people or other companies out there willing to start something new as well, and learning from a platform such as Bandcamp to be able to deliver to artists a similar fair scenario for them. So
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed.
Anita knows what she's talking about. She has been active in the music business in Australia for 25 years now. 25 years! And about a month ago, she released a new album with one of her projects, Beyond the Lake. And yes, it's available on Bandcamp. If you're keen to hear what a cello and a guitar sound like together in a contemporary project that started as a creative outlet for Anita and her partner during the pandemic, check it out at the link in the episode notes. There is, however, another factor that contributes to especially Australian artists having difficulties with reaching global audiences and making a decent income from music that, for instance, American artists are more likely to achieve. After all, not everybody can get to Kylie Minogue's level in their lifetime. The Fight the Sun's frontman and I talked about it during our chat a few weeks ago as well. So here is an interesting and somewhat bittersweet insight from Adrian on that topic to wrap up this after party.
The interesting thing, though, is the Australia can be, or is, sort of somewhat limiting. And because it's such a small market and there's such a small population, and there's definitely cliques, and there's definitely, you know, I mean, you would have been familiar with Triple J when you were here, and Triple J itself has become almost its own genre of music. And there's bands that are Triple J bands, and they're always the cool bands, and they're always the cool bands that are playing all the cool festivals and things like that. It's been like that for many, many years, you know. And then the rest of us, we're like the, you know, and that's what touching on what I said before. Like we feel like at school, like we're the geeks over in the corner that the cool kids are throwing their you know, throwing stuff out. You know what I mean? Like we've never been in the in crowd, and I don't know if we really want to be. You know, and maybe that limits what we can do and limits our audience. I don't know, but I don't know. We are who we are, I guess.
Well, guilty as charged, because I also listen to the Hottest 100, to be honest with you, every year.
Look, once upon a time, I every year as well, we used to listen to it, but I just don't think it's what it was. It's become very much an in crowd. Like it's very much the cool kids, and unless you're appealing to one or two specific people within that network, they can pretty much make or break you, so to speak. And unless you're appealing to them, then there's just no point. You may as well just go over here and do something over here instead, you know. So, and that's the interesting thing, you know. Europe in particular, and having had the opportunity, not with this band, but having the opportunity to all of us had the opportunity to travel through Europe over our lives and visit different parts of Europe. The one thing that we've kind of noticed more so seems to be, and some friends as well who are over there or who have traveled over there musically and you know, with bands and things like that, it seems to be a little bit more, and you can obviously correct me if I'm wrong here, you know, I'm obviously much better than I, but a lot more sort of accepting of rock as a genre. And
well, like I said, you know, sorry for interjecting again, like, you know, it's the simple fact that, you know, even in that documentary that Parkway Drive made, that their kind of goal, the ultimate one, was to play a festival in Germany. That tells you a lot already about the especially heavier scene. True.
Yeah. And it just seems to be a lot more sort of open in some ways, you know, like, you know, it doesn't matter if you've got the right pair of jeans on or the you're wearing the right pair of shoes. It's just like, if you make good music, then people seem to really accept it. And I could be wrong. I mean, you obviously know better. You live there. I don't. So yeah.
Well, you know, I think it's just it depends on like in what circles you actually are very active, you know, like, because I listen to a lot of music and I follow some, you know, trends and stuff as well. But, you know, somebody who only listens to pop music, they wouldn't even know that, you know, but there is a lot of rock festivals which are specifically made for that type of music. So yeah, that's true. All right. So that's it, Australian music fans. Before signing off, though, I want to leave you with a few thoughts of somebody who, first of all, is a fan of music, and second of all, follows Australian music from quite a distance at this stage, Europe to be specific. Many thanks to Anita, Peak Park, Adrian from Fight the Sun, and Katie Baker for participating in this little project of mine. I know what it takes to set time aside to speak to a blogger from a different continent. I used to be a band manager as well. It's difficult, especially when you're busy with your own things, like releases, rehearsals, marketing, and all the other things that musos do in their everyday lives that are much more pressing matters than doing another interview sometimes. So thank you once again for your time, honesty, engagement, and general enthusiasm for these silly talks. It's actually a humbling experience for me to spend some time talking about your art, even if it's only via Zoom. Now over to you, listeners. If you haven't yet, I'd suggest checking out the full episodes with the 4 artists. They're a good insight into who they are and what they do. And they mention heaps of other names in their respective genres, and also the heroes they look up to. So it's a wealth of music discovery that you don't want to miss out on. It would also mean the world to me, and I'm sure that to the artists I've interviewed for this podcast as well, if you gave their music a listen. I'll include samples of all 4 at the end of this episode, so stick around after I've finished talking. I know I've said that like a million times in this episode already, but please do check out the episode notes. There are heaps of links related to all 4 acts I've interviewed for this season. I'd humbly like to remind you as well that you can find more content covering Australian music on my Silly McWiggles blog. And watch that space closely, because I've just been to a few Australian artist gigs and industry networking events in London, so I'll be reporting on that at some stage for sure. I hope you've learned something new from this season of the City Talks and found new music to add to your playlists. I have. I'll definitely be back with more interviews in the future. So stay tuned, and I'll never tire of saying that. Follow or subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it now. Tell your friends about it too, please. It's free after all. Thank you. And on that note, I'm officially closing this after party and season 2 of the City Talks podcast. Thanks heaps for listening once again. Till next time. Bye.